Warning: the following video discusses dark and disturbing topics such as drug abuse, violence, self-harm, and more. Viewer discretion is advised. The internet is a beautiful place, and is easily one of mankind's greatest inventions. With it, we've achieved the capability to share information of all shapes and sizes all around the world within a matter of seconds. Whether it be global news, photos of destinations unknown, or that video game from your childhood you can't find anywhere, the internet is for the most part a fairly innocent and equally very useful tool. However, it is no secret, I'm sure, that the internet is also not so innocent. Whether it be on accident via a shock link a friend sent you as a prank, or an intentional search for such material, the internet can subject you to some of the most horrific content on Earth. I have personally seen a lot of disturbing things all around the web, but the place I've seen the most is Reddit. If you know Reddit, you're likely familiar with its organization of content via subreddits, communities that are focused on a specific topic. There's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of subreddits to explore and discover. Most are fun and interesting, but if you look hard enough, you'll also find there are plenty of subreddits that are, well, not so. From strange communities, all the way up to the punishable by law, Reddit has just as much bad to offer as it does good. How much bad? Well, I'm glad you asked. These are the most disturbing subreddits. r/FemaleDatingStrategy. This first one may be a little controversial given the name of the subreddit, but hear me out on this one. FemaleDatingStrategy describes itself as the only dating subreddit exclusively for women. We focus on effective dating strategies for women who want to take control of their dating lives. I know what you're thinking. What's the big deal? This subreddit, as it's described, sounds fairly reasonable. It just sounds like it's girl talk focused on dating. What's wrong with that? Well, don't be fooled. Things are not as they seem in this sub. FDS is a notoriously toxic place for women and men both. In fact, it's so infamous that it is listed on the Wikipedia page for controversial Reddit communities. Wikipedia's section on this subreddit states, FDS has been accused by r/against hate subreddits of promoting transphobia, misandry, and discrimination against sex workers. The Verge has described the advice given to women as socially and sexually conservative and oppressive to women. FDS posters must follow a strict rule set to avoid being banned, which includes opposition to consensual BDSM, porn consumption, and casual sex. Members are structured according to a strict hierarchy, with moderators called ruthless strategists being on top. Community is prioritized over the individual, and members are advised against speaking with journalists, which has been described as cult-like. The subreddit advises against dating men with mental illnesses, has banned members for believing men can be victims of sexual assault, and opposes liberal feminism, or lib-fems in quotations, but endorses TERF views, with trans women being entirely banned from posting in this subreddit. The advice is also criticized for being contradictory, such as encouraging independence from men while expecting men to pay for dates. It is also criticized for being too similar to subreddits of the manosphere. This doesn't sound like a very nice community, to say the least. Even before doing the research for this video, I've heard this community's name thrown around Reddit here and there over the several years that I've been browsing it. However, I've never actually looked into the community until now. I'm going to be highlighting specific posts in the subreddits we discuss here, to give you a taste of what the subreddits are all about. On to the first post. This post is titled, "If you are scaring them, you are doing something right." It reads, I am in grad school, but this mindset applies to any group settings. My roommate told me the other day that 2 guys in our class had crushes on me. However, they were afraid of me and would never approach me. My roommate is a charitable person and she acted as a liaison between me and these guys to check my level of interest. My roommate is friends with these guys and I am not. The handbook has comprehensive vetting strategies and I reread them often because these concepts keep me alert. Prior to FDS, I would be flattered to learn someone had a crush on me. Now, all I feel is disgust that they are comfortable crushing on me, yet they're too afraid to talk to me. Why are they afraid? Because they know they have nothing to offer me? They know that they would merely waste my time? And despite knowing this, they harbor a crush. I haven't done anything to these individuals. I never speak to them. They just assume I'm a scary bitch because my standards are above whatever they could possibly offer. Boy, bye. To conclude, if you're coming off as a scary bitch, you're vetting LVM by simply existing. The legwork? Done. The person in this post comes off as thinking very highly of themselves, to put it kindly. It's pretty normal to be shy when it comes to someone you find attractive, so I'm not sure why she is disgusted by these men. Normally, I would motivate someone to muster up the courage and talk to their crush, but judging by this girl's display of character, I actually hope they stay far away from her. She sounds like a shitty person. The next post is titled "Man Attempts to Lowball His Date After Getting Horrendous Advice from Reddit. Queen blocks and deletes in response." The post is a screenshot, so we'll be reading the screenshot. It says, "So I need some advice. I don't date much. In fact, my last date was like 10 years ago. I want to start dating, so I put myself on Tinder. Got a match with a very attractive girl and I'm excited to meet her. The problem is, she picked a steakhouse with $50 to $70 plates, and to me this is an anniversary type place. What are your thoughts and how can I approach this topic? I feel like steakhouses are not a first date type of place. Instead, my idea was a fun brewery type place with good food. Thanks in advance. Update. Thanks for the suggestions. I texted her basically explaining first dates for me are a drink or picnic, then she unmatched and blocked me. Don't have to deal with that anymore. P.S. Thank you guys, some great suggestions here. There is a pinned comment on the post made by a mod, saying, "This is a good example of men not knowing their place. This man scored a date with an extremely attractive woman after a decade of no such luck, and he blows it by being cheap. What's even more insulting is that he initially agreed to take her to the steakhouse, but then went back and tried to give her a lowball offer. I am glad this queen, maybe she frequents this subreddit, lol, knew her worth and blocked and deleted. Men always know what they are doing when they lowball you, which is why FDS teaches women not to accept low-effort dates in the first place. Honestly, it's completely okay and normal to not spend a bunch of money on someone you've never met before, just as an FYI. Ironically, something tells me most if not all of these people are probably single. This way of thinking is not productive if your goal is to meet somebody, and these superimposed dating strategies are not how the real world works, at least to this such an extreme. If you've met someone you're interested in or met someone on a dating app, just be yourself, you know. Don't take it from me though, I'm not a relationship expert by any means. Dating and love are weird things, but I digress. After taking this quick look into FDS, the community does come off as very toxic, as people have warned. I'd say go browse this community yourself, but recently the community went private due to a controversy regarding the Johnny Depp vs. Amber Heard trials. Many are speculating that the subreddit may be banned, or banned in the near future. We'll see what the future holds, I guess. r/IAmATotalPieceOfS. This subreddit is dedicated to sharing media, mostly videos, of people just being terrible. In this day and age, most if not everything is getting recorded, so there are plenty of videos of people being shitty, for better or worse. This subreddit is mostly safe for work, so for my examples I'm going to just highlight a couple videos I found on this sub. This first video is short. It depicts what looks like a Christmas gathering in a pretty fancy looking room. On camera, a man named Dan Pina is making a speech that shows just how awful of a person he is. He openly refers to poor people as poor fucks and mocks them for not being able to afford Christmas presents. He then goes on to brag about how many presents are under his tree. Watch for yourself.
Merry Christmas to YouTube and all you poor fuckers out there, you know. And we're going to show, that's pan down, move a little, move. That's what Christmas is supposed to look like, you poor fucks. And if it doesn't look like this, about 300 presents here. If something ain't right, if your Christmas doesn't look like this.
Looking into Dan Pina, he's the stereotypical rich asshole we've seen in all those shows and movies. He refers to himself as the $1 trillion man. No single person on Earth has $1 trillion. He appears to be a habitual liar. He hosts seminars where he gives speeches, sort of like TED Talks, with the intent, so to speak, to help people gain money. But rather be informative and have a positive outlook on his message, he verbally abuses his audience. One of the worst things he's done is bring a knife and gun to his classes and show people how to properly themselves right before calling them losers. You have to pay to attend these seminars that he hosts, and that's crazy to me. Paying to be insulted? No thank you. Dan is an awful person, and it seems that the more you look into him, the worse he gets. This next post is a TikTok video the poster must have found online. A woman discusses an Instagram account she found that she describes as pimping out children, assumingly the Instagram account owner's children. It's not as bad as it sounds, surprisingly, but still pretty bad and mysterious to say the least. Let's watch the video.
And it's literally pimping out your children. A follower asked me to check out an account. I went and checked it out, and I found this. The Instagram leads me to a personal website where they are selling photo sets of this young girl and her friend. Who the fuck do you think is purchasing photo sets of two young girls for $125 US? Let it be known that these children are under the age of 13, but here's a photo set you can purchase of two little princesses, or them at the ice cream gallery. And not only that, this child's measurements are listed right there on her website for anyone who wants to send merch. I can't.
I'm not sure what is going on here exactly, but whatever it is, it's deeply concerning. Not only are they selling photos of children, but they also detail the proportions and anatomy of these children with their height, weight, shoulder length, etc. What could the purpose of that be? People in the comments section theorize this is meant for people who traffic children, as in they use these proportions to buy fitted clothes for tracking purposes. This theory seems like a stretch, but also plausible at the same time. It's really hard to say though, considering the unusual nature of including such information. I also find it concerning their sizes are listed as adult small, as these kids are clearly not adults. What this Instagram page is doing is not illegal technically, but it is still very creepy, and I hope authorities have been tipped off about this regardless. The last thing the world needs is a possible child trafficking ring. I'm not quite sure of the fate of the children shown, but let's all hope that they're safe and sound. r/adultery. Adultery is a subreddit all about cheating on your significant other. To put it simply, most people think cheating is not okay, and it's a good way to damage your relationship, if not end it altogether. It often leaves its victims traumatized, and is one of the worst things you can do to someone you're supposed to love and care for. Despite this, there are people who think it's okay to cheat, or they know it's bad and they just don't care. This subreddit is a hub for people in these camps. After browsing this subreddit for a while, I was pretty disheartened. Here's a post that stuck out to me. The title reads, "Just remember that you are disposable." The post itself says, no matter what's been said, no matter how much time, no matter the connection, and by the way, this is kind of where we are now in general, no matter the context, affairs, friendships, situationships, friends with benefits, whatever label you choose, people are fucking damaged. This post is tagged as a venting post. Given that, it's safe to say this person is venting about being cheated on. Like I said earlier, cheating is an awful thing to do to someone and leaves lasting, negative effects on its victims. If the person who posted this somehow sees this video, I'm sorry that happened to you. You don't deserve that. Nobody does. The next post takes it a step further. The title reads, "What is the pettiest reason you've written off a PAP?" PAP stands for Potential Affair Partner. By the way, the post itself reads, "Some I've done. Online guy sent me a selfie and he had a carpeted bathroom. In person met a guy at his vehicle for a date, and his vehicle had truck nuts hanging from the back bumper. Couldn't get past either one." An interesting comment on this thread reads, "I had one guy telling me that he just knew I would want to sleep with him within 20 minutes of meeting him. In his truck, outside of a coffee place. No." One guy sent a picture of his wife. Guys who get sexual right away. One guy told me after 2 days of messaging that I needed to make a decision about him immediately because he wanted to have his head between my gorgeous legs within a week. Unsolicited messages. DOMs in quotations. I'm sure I will think of more. A person replied to this comment saying, "The right to sex creeps me out." I like how it starts off basic. And then, "What's your favorite position?" Alrighty then. Going there already? And then that's it. Block. I'm not sure how these people are able to just carry normal conversation while shrugging off cheating, as if it's no big deal. It's fascinating. Fascinating in a disturbing way. Also, don't get me wrong, these posters are justified to find immediate sexual advances weird or creepy. But I mean, just look at the market you're shopping in here. You can't expect people to be respectful and considerate of what's normal in the romantic scene, while simultaneously sneaking out to cheat on your significant other. That doesn't make any sense. Adultery is not a small subreddit, by the way. It's blooming with over 100,000 members. That's a lot of people. This is one major downfall of the internet. People are able to glorify terrible things and get away with it. Such is the power of anonymity. r/meth. If it wasn't obvious, meth is referring to the drug methamphetamine. It's an extremely powerful stimulant that floods your brain with dopamine, the feel-good chemical, to the point that users can become hooked after just one use. It is not organic. It's made in very crude labs out of dangerous chemicals like paint thinner, freon, acetone, red phosphorus, and the list goes on. Basically, it's made out of things that are extremely toxic to the body, and even just the act of making meth is extremely dangerous for its creators. Symptoms of meth use include weight loss from loss of appetite, facial acne and sores, rotted teeth, convulsions and seizures, liver damage, stroke, very high libido, extreme hyperactivity, and much more. Overdose is common, and it can kill you easily, if not ruin your life within just a couple months of use. Long story short, don't do meth. A lot of this sub is people just memeing, or people browsing out of morbid curiosity, but this is sadly an actual hub for meth addicts. My thoughts and prayers go out to anyone who either struggles with drug addiction or knows someone who does. And that's not just for meth. Drugs in general are of course a terrible plague on our society. Out of respect, I'm going to censor usernames in this post I show here, and not show any faces. The first post I'll be showcasing is titled "Help Please." The post reads as follows. So I filtered 4 grams of meth through a coffee filter twice. I let the filter dry and put them in a glass of water and drank the water. I'm higher than I've ever been, in a bad way. What can I do to not die? Cause it's a route more likely to OD death. Update. My heart stopped. Blood pressure 190/118. EKG showing signs of damage being done to lower chambers of my heart. But they did another EKG and my heart was no longer being stressed in that way. So, yeah, benzos saved my life, LMAO. Info from emergency room. Also, thank you all for being the best group of degenerates on the face of the earth. Straight lifesavers. The last part of that post is referring to people who commented on the post telling the OP what they should do in this situation. This one is hard to stomach. Luckily, they updated the post to say they were okay, but their heart temporarily stopped. This person was dead for a brief moment. Think about that. It's really sad what these kinds of drugs do to people. I'm glad this poster is okay, and I hope they're eventually able to overcome their addiction. The next post is titled, "My sister has permanent brain damage from meth." The post reads, "I'm not judgmental at all, as I've done meth several times myself, but those days are long behind me. My sister is off drugs and in treatment, but pretty paranoid and incoherent most of the time. Please think about what you are doing. I know it's a tough addiction, but the end result is not good and affects your loved ones as well. Best wishes, everyone. Stay safe." A pretty short but equally pretty depressing post, to say the least. My condolences to this person for the partial loss of their loved one. This goes to show even further just how dangerous meth use is, in the short term and long term. It'll dissolve your social life and relationships as quickly as it dissolves your physical health. Again, please stay away from meth, everybody. These aren't even the worst posts on this sub. The worst posts are the people who post themselves smoking meth or being high off of it. I won't show any of these posts as the people in these videos reveal their face and I want to respect their privacy, or at least not brandish their face on a YouTube video. It's really sad to see, and I cannot believe people post themselves doing this stuff, face and all. A lot of posts you see lack coherency, which hints that the person who wrote it is either high, or been awake for days, or both. Obviously, I cannot recommend you go browse this sub for yourself, but I can't stop you either. View at your own risk, if you're curious. If Reddit was an iceberg, these subreddits are below the surface. The subreddits I'm referring to are Gore and Shock subreddits. Many of these subreddits follow the same formula, so we're going to talk about them as a whole rather than individual sub. I mentioned the iceberg analogy because these subreddits function similarly to the deep web. They will never appear on the homepage of Reddit. You have to manually search for them. This is good because most people do not want to see this sort of content, obviously. Well, besides the morbidly curious. Lots of these subs are private communities that you have to request to join, because many Redditors are not happy with the thought that these subs exist, so people will report them in hopes that they get banned. Also, people can cross-post these subs into other non-related communities, which can get these subs banned. Many have been banned over the years, to nobody's surprise. These subreddits are dedicated to the most disturbing kinds of content. Videos depicting terrible accidents such as car wreck aftermaths, natural disasters, war and combat footage, murder, etc. If you want to see violence, you go to these subreddits. I'm not proud to admit it, but I've personally seen a lot of these types of videos. For better or worse, I've gotten a little desensitized to this type of content to some degree, but I understand the majority of people do not want to see this sort of stuff, so even if I could show you, I wouldn't. Despite my desensitizing to these types of videos, I've still seen plenty that were bad enough that I could not watch them completely. The worst videos I have seen here are cartel executions, and self-harm, and suicide. One particular case involved an individual who went by the online alias Coldness in My Heart. practicing self-harm that was so extremely violent that many people are questioning to this day as to whether or not the photos this person posted were real or not. Please, do not look this stuff up unless you are absolutely sure you want to see it or need to. I'm not joking when I say this is probably the worst thing I've ever seen. And that's about all I can say for this subject. Short, I know, but maybe it's better that way. Banned subreddits. Some of these subs have been banned for a long time. Because of this, I'm just gonna be giving you a description of what these subreddits were. If you're curious, you can view some of these old subs using Wayback Machine. Wayback Machine is basically an internet archiver. Users can submit links and websites to the archive over days, months, years, and you can use this to browse things like YouTube from 2007, now defunct websites, or as we're talking about here, subreddits that are no longer around. It's like an archive of time capsules you can explore. It's pretty cool. However though, you really should not be curious about some of these subs, and you'll hear why in a second. On to the subreddits. r/Creepshots. Creepshots was a subreddit dedicated to invading other people's privacy. Users would post photos of people who were unaware they were having their picture taken. The majority of these posts involved women, and people taking pictures of their breast, their behind, up their skirt, etc., without the woman's knowledge. The subreddit was banned way back in 2012, and upon being banned, a new subreddit was made called r/Candid Fashion Police. The new name was a front. People would post creepshots under the false pretense that they were critiquing their victim's fashion. Obviously, this didn't last long, and the sub was subsequently banned, again. As far as I know, no new communities involving creepshots popped up again after this. I remember hearing about this sub way back in 2012. I was still in middle school at the time. Luckily, my curiosity never got the best of me in this situation, and I never went and browsed the sub for myself. And that's about all I can say for this sub. r/DarkNetMarkets. This sub was dedicated to the discussion and participation in internet black markets that typically sell illegal goods such as illicit drugs, illegal firearms, counterfeit currency, stolen personal information such as credit card details, forged documents such as fake IDs, and even cyber arms. Cyber arms being tools used by hackers or people perpetrating cyber attacks. Basically, most of the illegal things you can think of can be found on these markets. They're called darknet markets because they're only really found by browsing the deep web, using browsers like Tor to access them. However, this subreddit made these markets more easily accessible. According to Wikipedia, US authorities knew of this sub and requested the personal information of users who posted themselves participating in these illegal markets. Despite the illegal nature of this subreddit, it wasn't banned until 2018. I would not be surprised if the subreddit was closed because authorities told Reddit to do so, but who knows? The reason isn't really known. r/Incels. This sub was a community for involuntary celibates, or as we know them, Incels. Wikipedia defines incel as a member of an online subculture of people who define themselves as unable to get a romantic or sexual partner despite desiring one. Discussions in incel forums are often characterized by resentment and hatred, misogyny, misanthropy, self-pity and self-loathing, racism, a sense of entitlement to sex, and the endorsement of violence against women and sexually active people. These extreme characteristics are what identify an incel. If anyone watching has been single for a while, don't worry, that doesn't make you an incel, and it's normal to be alone for a while sometimes in life. Men and women both can be incels, but self-identified incels are typically white, heterosexual men. Back to the sub though, it was exactly as Wikipedia describes these communities. Users often posted misogynistic views that downplayed or advocated for rape. Similarly to FemaleDatingStrategy, they referred to their opposite sex using derogatory names like femoids, or just sluts. Some users incited violence against women, and put infamous figures such as the mass shooter Elliot Rodger on a pedestal for also being an incel. Users who were not truly incels were considered too female-friendly, and thus were banned from the subreddit. r/incels was banned in 2017 on grounds of inciting violence, which breaks Reddit's content policies. This subreddit was essentially the female dating strategy subreddit, but for men, but it had more extreme and violent views of the other sex than FDS does. Pretty nasty stuff. And on to the last and possibly worst subreddit to ever exist. We're talking about r/jailbait. One of the most notorious subs. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you in the audience have heard of this one before. This community was dedicated to posting provocative or suggestive photos of underage victims, particularly women. Not only was this sub allowed to exist, it was partly defended by Reddit's general manager at the time, a guy named Eric Martin. Back in 2011, Eric hosted a thread on IAmA, a sub dedicated to asking the posters questions. These are more formally known as AMAs, or Ask Me Anything threads. A user asked Eric his thoughts on subreddits such as r/jailbait, and on another awful sub, r/pics of dead kids. Eric answered the question with this: "Personally, I think they are gross. But let's take the infamous pics of dead kids example. The actual content of that subreddit is mostly autopsy photos. Obviously, it's a troll subreddit and created to get a reaction, and I'd guess 98% of Redditors think it's gross, offensive, etc. But what if the name of the subreddit was r/autopsy photos, or r/do you really want to go into criminal forensics, and they were sincere in their discussion of these images? Would some of that 98% now be okay with it? I bet at least some would. What if it wasn't kids, but adults? Or historical autopsy photos only? The point is, I don't want to be the one making these decisions for anyone but myself. And it's not the business Reddit is in. We're a free speech site with very few exceptions, and having to stomach occasional troll Reddits like pics of dead kids, or morally questionable Reddits like jailbait are part of the price of free speech on a site like this. Where he does make a good point, I do think there is a fine line between free speech and content that's allowed to be shared, and vile stuff that should be condemned. Jailbait falls into the latter category, at least for me. The sub attracted a ton of attention when Anderson Cooper dedicated a segment of his program on CNN to this subreddit, condemning it and criticizing Reddit for allowing it to exist. This attracted a huge amount of traffic to the sub, peaking at well over 1 million active users when the report broke out. Also, the sub was voted as Best Subreddit of the Year in 2008. The subreddit, however, was finally shut down in 2011. There is not a clear-cut reason as to why it was shut down. Many at the time, including the sub's creator, claimed it was because of the negative press generated by Anderson Cooper's report. Others claimed it was because the subreddit was hate-rated by users from another forum website called Something Awful. Regardless of the reason as to why it was shut down, I'm glad it was. And good riddance. Reddit is a huge website that is or has been home to plenty of awful subreddits over the years. I tried to cover most of the well-known ones here, but there's so many more we did not talk about as well. Are there any subreddits you know of that I didn't mention here? Let me know down in the comments below. Who knows, maybe I'll make a follow-up video someday. But for now, this has been the most disturbing subreddits. And as always, thanks for watching.